All right, everybody, we're gonna watch this trailer. I already know what it's about, but I have some thoughts on this. Well, this is when I first. This isn't when I chose my first partner. My experience with Pokemon goes back a little bit further. But here you go. This is Nintendo, the Pokemon Company, and Game Freak are bringing Pokemon FireRed and Pokemon LeafGreen from the Game Boy Advance to Nintendo Switch. And the method is interesting. But yeah, like, I've been wanting to play through one of the Kanto games for a while, and I guess this will be my excuse to do it. I was just going to emulate it, but, you know, I'm a, you know, I'll say what I'm going to say in a minute. I like that focus on that dramatic shake for the Master Ball. The guaranteed capture. Build it up. Real drama there. Anyway. So yeah, there it is. Alright, so that's all of that. So this is interesting because this came out of nowhere. Like, I think this trailer dropped like in the middle of the night last night. I know when I went to sleep last night, this was not out there. Now, from what I understand, it was leaked a little while back, a couple weeks back, or maybe it was in some big, I know there was a humongous leak. I don't remember how long ago it was. There was a big leak that apparently leaked a lot, and probably some of it's going to be revealed next week for the official Pokémon Presents presentation for the 30th anniversary of Pokemon. But yeah, this is interesting. And you know what? I will say this. First of all, first things first. Anytime old games can come back in an official capacity is a good thing. I am all for this. I've said this plenty of times. Emulation is great for games you can't legally buy anymore, or, you know, you've bought them once before, or things like that. Like, emulation is a nice substitute when there's not an official means to get your game. But if there is an official means, then you should try to support it if you can. Not everybody can afford to just go buy every single game. I mean, I get that. Especially like something like this where maybe you have a physical copy of FireRed somewhere, like I do. I've got mine somewhere. I don't know exactly where it is. Could be over here on this shelf. But, you know. But there will be people who've never played these games before who will happily fork over the $20 for both of them. And they will be very happy to play these early Pokemon games. It's kind of crazy to think that this was the first time we saw these games, like Pokemon remakes. So it's kind of wild to think that, you know, the remakes are back, but they are actually like it's from 2004. That was 22 years ago. That's a long time. But again, I think that this is bringing back old games is always good. We should always appreciate when they do that. They don't have to, even though they should. Let me just say that. They don't have to, but they really should, because if you value your games, you know there are going to be people who want to play every old game ever for as long as time goes on. I mean, and there will always be people trying to find new ways to enjoy the game. I mean, look at how speedrunners can keep a game going. Like, it doesn't matter how fast a speedrunner gets, every time a world record is broken, what happens? That just encourages people to find a new way to break that record and reduce the time even more. So, there's just so much inspiration that people take from these old games, and they can breathe new life into them. But yeah, what about the price? Okay, I think personally $20 is too much to ask for Game Boy games, or Game Boy Advance games. I don't remember what they cost on the Wii U, but I think some people said they were like $8. So they've gone from $8 to 20. I don't like that. Could understand maybe charging $10 a piece for them separately, and if you want to buy both versions of the game, you buy a bundle where they're $15. So you get them both together, $7.50 a piece. Then, like, that seems a little more fair. You know, because most people, like, at least back in the day, the expectation was you would get one version of the game, and then you would go try to find somebody out there who had the other version of the game and get the exclusive Pokemon from their game, and you trade them the exclusives from yours so that you could get them all. That was the whole point of the way the game was set up in the first place, even back in the original Red and Green. So, I think that would be a much more fair price. Some people will probably think, you know, like, why didn't they put this on, you know, the Nintendo Switch, you know, Game Boy Advance catalog? And I kind of agree with that. I really was hoping they would do that, because the Pokemon Stadium games are there. I know this game isn't compatible with that, but it is compatible with Pokemon Coliseum and Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, which, if I'm not mistaken, are not yet on the Nintendo Switch Online GameCube catalog, but they are supposed to be. They were advertised as coming at some point in the future, which, speaking of the future, now would be the future. Next week is definitely the future. So there's a good chance that at least Pokemon Coliseum or Gale of Darkness will be announced for Nintendo Switch Online's GameCube catalog next week. I'm going to throw that in there as one of my early predictions. But I figured I was hoping they would either do one, drop all these old Pokemon handheld games into their respective online catalog. So, you know, the Game Boy catalog gets red, blue, yellow, maybe green if you want to do that here, but that never got an English release, so maybe you couldn't do that. And from what I understand, it would be kind of redundant to do green too in English, but I don't know. Throw in silver, gold, and crystal. Then the Game Boy Advance catalog gets FireRed, LeafGreen, Emerald, Ruby, and Sapphire. And there you go. That was what I was thinking. And that way, you know, the Game Boy games that they used to connect to Pokemon Stadium and Pokemon Stadium 2. And what I was hoping is they would find some way to make those work together with the Game Boy catalog stuff, since I figure all that's probably saved in a relatively similar way. And you probably could emulate that effect. I think emulation for the Nintendo 64 games has made Game Boy compatibility work, but, you know, they're able to get games working online nowadays with emulation. But anyway, I was hoping they'd either do that or just release a big physical collection, or even a digital collection of all of the original handheld Game Boy games. So you go from, you know, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, maybe throw in the DS games too if you want to, and release those and have them as all one set. But they didn't do that. Now, it's interesting they chose FireRed and LeafGreen for this, and interesting that they dropped this a week before the Pokémon Presents, because that's making me wonder, why do this? Why did they drop this in the middle of the night, a week ahead of the official presentation? And I'm hoping that means that they've got some big things planned next week. So the big show that we're waiting for next week on Friday, maybe that means that they're going to slow drip reveals and get people really excited, like, what are they saving for Pokemon Presents? It's going to be something big. Now, I imagine it'll be the next generation. It seems like it's time for that. I know that there's leaks of what that's supposed to be, but I haven't read the leaks. I know that this was supposedly leaked, though, because I like to be surprised when I can. I'm not too bummed out about surprises being spoiled, to be honest, but, you know, I do like when I'm surprised by something. But anyway, so if they're dropping this ahead of time, this would have been a pretty big deal. I mean, it wouldn't have probably floored people, you know, but I think this would have been a big enough announcement to save for Pokemon Day, unless there's more to come. So maybe this is just a taste of what they're waiting for. Maybe we'll get the rest of the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games announced too, but maybe it will be over, you know, a gradual period of time. Maybe FireRed and LeafGreen are just the start. Because don't forget, they did release red, blue, yellow, silver, and gold. I don't think they released crystal. Maybe they did. But they did release those on the 3DS shop. So that was something... I remember I did buy red and silver on my 3DS before it went offline. But yeah, so there you go. Old Pokemon Game Boy Advance games coming. At least it's the remakes of Red and Green. Of course, these were not the first Pokemon Game Boy Advance. That was Ruby and Sapphire. Which is interesting. You know, thinking about it, just this fun fact thing. Ruby and Sapphire came out. Then FireRed and LeafGreen came out. Then Emerald came out. So it's sort of a weird order there with that generation. But what do you guys think about this announcement? Are you excited that the old Pokemon games appear to be coming back, or at least these two are? What about Pokemon Day? What are you guys expecting? I'm expecting, of course, I'm going to go ahead and drop my predictions here. I expect the new generation to get announced. I'm hopeful that we'll get a really good presentation for Pokemon Champions. We've not heard anything from that since last year. So from the last Pokemon Presents, we haven't heard anything about Pokemon Champions. And that was the one that I think I was the most interested in. So that's an entirely new game that's supposed to be coming. We still don't know really much of anything about it. This here, I expect one of the Pokemon Game Boy, GameCube games to get announced for Nintendo Switch Online's GameCube catalog. Maybe they'll do both. I don't think so. I figure they'll tell us, you know, Coliseum will drop next week on Friday, as soon as the presentation's over, and they'll say, and keep your eye out for Gale of Darkness in the near future. But they won't tell us when they'll drop that one. What other prediction do I give? Maybe more of these games. Maybe more of the older games coming back. That would be nice. And I'm sure we'll get some stuff for the other, like the apps, like Pokemon Sleep, Pokemon Go updates, stuff for the TCG, stuff for the anime. We'll get all that stuff. Maybe another look at that theme park, that Pokemon theme park that was supposed to open up. So, yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments about the return of the Game Boy Advance Pokemon games. And tell me, are there any of the... what specific Pokemon games would you like to see come back from that old, you know, the old handhelds? Let me know in the comments what your favorites were. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And be sure to tune in next week for the Pokemon Presents whenever I do finally get to sit down and react to it. So, because hopefully I can get home right away from work and you won't have to wait too long. I know you're just chomping at the bit to hear from me, but appreciate it again, guys. Thanks for watching. I'm out of here.